Final round.
Power.
Nice shot.
KO.
Welcome to Gaymer Girls.
Hello and welcome to
Gaymer Girls,
the gaming podcast full of nerd news and lore lectures for the girls and
the
the gamers.
gamers.
I'm Sana.
I'm Van.
And today we're going to be doing a little bit of like a sequel episode to one that we did back in March. This is going to be a sequel to our Assassin's Creed episode because I'm going to be talking a little bit about my review of Assassin's Creed Shadows several months post-release of the game itself.
And that's okay.
And also because playing the game made me sort of have a conversation with myself about what I see as like the problem with open world games in today's date, and just sort of what happens when good design choices in concept don't quite work out in execution.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
So I started playing Assassin's Creed Shadows March 19th when it was released, and I played consistently for about 2 weeks until April 7th, logging about 90 hours into the game up until this point.
That's nice. Very
Yeah.
good.
I reached the quest for killing the second to last guy on the main story quest murder board, because a big part of Assassin's Creed is that you have like this murder board and you have to get through each target to get to the one in the middle. So I was on the second to last one. And I just stopped playing. I couldn't bring myself to keep going.
No way, really?
Yeah, I had completed all the quests, murdered everybody else on the main murder board and all the side murder boards, but I was just so tired that I put the game down until a couple weeks ago when I finally sat down and finished the game. On June 5th.
Props to you for even picking the game back up after you put it down.
I had to do it
that.
eventually. On June 15th, I completed the main story of the game with 93.3 hours played and 98% of achievements completed because
Wow.
I did not feel like grinding out the last one.
What was it?
It was, you had to kill this like really big chunky health enemy in one hit.
Oh.
But you have to, there's a very specific way to spawn them, and I just didn't feel like sitting there going through the process of spawning them in order to like maybe try. Assassin's Creed also, every time they release DLCs, also does achievements for those DLCs.
Oh.
So even if I platinum it now, it's not going to stay, so
Okay.
it doesn't matter. So this game is fun, but it also had a lot of issues. So I'm going to kind of go from explaining the ones that were like least impactful to most impactful as far as how I order the categories in this review.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So I will be giving light spoilers about the structure of the game, but I won't go into like too many plot details outside of what happens in the actual opening of the game. I will probably go a little bit more into spoilers later on, but when that happens, I'll do the big red flag.
Okay, cool.
Spoilers are happening. So the first category is music. This game, like most others Assassin's Creed games, especially recent ones, has a just okay soundtrack.
Oh.
Personally, I love a game where after playing it, I don't know if you are like this as well, after playing a game, I just want to go back and listen to the soundtrack because there's certain like leitmotifs and songs that really stick with me even after credits roll, and I just want to go back and listen to them on repeat.
Oh yeah.
For me, the music in this game accompanied the experience but didn't stand out in any way. It wasn't distracting in a way that took me out of the experience, but it didn't grab me in the way that I would like to run and listen to the OST as soon as I was done playing.
Gotcha. I'm studying right now for an admissions test, and I like to put on Baldur's Gate 3 ambiance and music into the background when I study. I love a little, like a gentle soundtrack, but when Undertale came out, I was bumping Toby Fox all day, every day.
Oh, Megalomania.
Yeah.
Still-
There are some underrated songs in there.
I believe
okay?
you. I don't.
Incredibly
I've never played
underrated.
Undertale, so I only know that one.
Ugh,
But
it hurts, but yes, I get what you mean. You really want the music to be, a highlight to the experience as well.
yeah, and I know that's not important to everybody, but for me, music, the amount that I take away from the game with the music being a main part of that is a big part of the enjoyability of a game for me.
Yeah, reasonable.
So for ones where it's like, oh, I left the game and I don't remember what the music was, but I remember it being there.
That's not as interesting to you.
Exactly. So one thing I will say about the music is that there were times when the cutscenes get very cinematic, like you're watching one of those old samurai films. And the music shifts from traditional Japanese music to more modern upbeat music. I saw some negative critiques of this choice online, but I personally really liked this touch in particular when it did occur. The reasoning is I saw a lot of, just generally speaking, references and comparisons to Ghost of Tsushima, which is a critically acclaimed game by that was released on PlayStation and takes place in a similar time period. So there are just, by happenstance, will be a lot of similarities between Assassin's Creed Shadows and Ghost of Tsushima, to the point where some people were even claiming that Shadows was copying
Oh, wow.
Ghost of Tsushima, though I think it's inevitable to have similarities when your settings are very similar and you're in similar time periods.
Okay,
But
yeah.
Assassin's Creed is a sci-fi historical game, so having that more modern music coming in key moments was kind of a nice way to show that there is this futuristic twist happening in the background.
Yeah, because I remember when you were telling me about the game, there is this dual element of you've got the time sort of jump back, but you also have these like very progressive, very futuristic elements.
Yeah, exactly. So I liked having that modern music in there as like a nice like a modern twist, because you are in the game, you are a person who is hooking up into a computer system to experience these historical,
Yes.
events. So having those more like technologically futuristic elements in there, I think is nice. The next section is romance and side characters. These were also just okay.
Oh.
Yeah, like throughout the game, you can pick up characters that you can bring onto your team, and they can assist you in combat when called upon. And they all have some like amount of companion quests that delve a bit more into who they are, as well as their personal journeys and motivations. Generally speaking, I liked all the characters. None of them were bad. They were all very different, so each one felt new and fresh as you met each one.
Okay.
My main issue with them is just how brief their presence was in the grand scheme of the game. Their quests are not very long, and for the characters who have multiple parts to their quests, at least in my playthrough, could be completed one after the other in short succession. So while there is growth intended to be seen between quests, it feels like they're going from start to finish incredibly quick.
Oh.
And in Assassin's Creed Shadows, you can progress throughout seasons in the game to sort of show that time is passing throughout the game. So in a game where there is this natural visual progression of time, but you're going through quests like that, it feels like there's no development happening at all in between.
There's like that incongruency is difficult to look
Exactly.
past.
This is the same with the romances, except for one, which I'll bring up later. For the most part, romances that are also recruitable team members, you get the option to flirt with them during those quests and pick flirtatious dialogue, and eventually you can commit to a relationship with them in that.
Can you commit to more than one relationship?
You cannot. Which is kind of an unfortunate part that I'll get to later. For my playthrough, I chose one of these characters for Naoe's romance, Naoe being the female protagonist of the game, because the companion character quests happened with no time in between. It felt like they went from strangers at odds to a fully committed relationship in like no time at all.
That's rough.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate that the lack of pacing that was forced by the game meant that it didn't feel as impactful. And it happens so quickly that you go the rest of the game and it's never brought up again.
You know, I've been seeing a trend of that, honestly, in a lot of media as well. In a lot of these television shows, I've had too many things described as slow burns for them to end up in a relationship by like first few episodes of like a season.
Yeah.
Simply not about it. No, we gotta let it burn, gotta let there be content to make it feel more real.
Exactly. There is one romanceable character for Yasuke, the male protagonist, that is not a recruitable companion that actually felt well paced, but that is because the game forces you to wait a season before continuing their quest line.
Oh. Want to retake that?
Yeah. There is one romanceable character for Yasuke, the male protagonist, that is not a recruitable companion that actually felt well paced, but that is because the game forces you to wait for a season before continuing their quest line.
Well, yeah, that's, of course, okay, in comparison to the other ones.
Yeah, because I was forced to wait, it felt like there was more of this growing connection.
Yeah.
Each season I returned to her and had this like sweet personable moment with her before I had to leave and return for the next season to continue her story.
That's really sweet.
Yeah. Granted, based on my game experience, it seems that the romance option you pick bears no weight, because even at the epilogue, when you go and you get to have one last conversation with all of your allies at your main home base, I got no unique dialogue with my romance characters.
No, that's why you romance characters, is to get the little special.
I don't know if I just
moment.
got like a bug or something, or if it's with certain characters but not others, but
dang,
it just there wasn't one.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, overall it feels like an afterthought, which is unfortunate since it felt like Valhalla's romance had a lot more weight to it, though to the credit of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, the romance in that game does have a bearing on the ending.
Okay.
Also, romances are a committed choice, so once you enter them, you can't pick anyone else despite them feeling like an afterthought, so you can't really explore your options like you can in Odyssey, which is fine, but like it's important to know that that will affect your play experience.
No, and that is something that I would want to know, because I like the fact that in many games I can go be like, oh no, never mind, I don't want you anymore, and then go find someone else.
Yeah. Like Odyssey was nice because it also was this really big grand game, and you could flirt with different characters that you meet, and at the end of the quest, if you flirted with them enough, you could have like a romanceable, experience with them. But it was just for that one night. You're not in a committed relationship with them, so you can go the rest of the game and not be like, yeah, this person who I romanced 40 hours ago is my committed partner. No. So the next section is armor and weapon customization.
Ooh.
I quite like this, honestly. I was able to get gear with stats that complemented my build.
Nice.
Slot in augments to each piece to round it all out. And I never felt like I really had to scrounge for resources, except for in the very early game when I was constantly broke because I kept buying housing items to like spruce up my base.
Now that's
a
you problem.
That's a me problem. But I fully am aware of that if I wasn't doing, because like now 90 hours into the game, I have so much money. If I had just waited, I wouldn't have been, struggling for resources early.
But I get it. Shiny little things to make your little nest and your little home.
Exactly. The appearance customization is great too, as you can customize the appearance of each component of your weapon based on the gear you acquired. So for something like a katana, you can customize the hilt, the handguard, the blade, and the sheath to whatever look you wanted, as long as you had acquired the weapon previously to like get that appearance from.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and you can do that for every single type of weapon. So bows, you can customize the bow and the quiver.
I have never heard of that level of customization.
Yeah, so, and also it's a absolutely gorgeous game, so all the different designs and the patterns, it really is beautiful.
Lovely.
Armor and headgear has a lot less customization, as each character has a handful of head and chest pieces that each come in a few different patterns and colorways. So overall, I was satisfied, as I was both able to get armor that complemented my build, and I was also able to look good at the same time.
Nice. No, that's great. I used to worry that people would make fun of the fact that sometimes I play games just to be cute, dress up, have things like that. But, you know, that's part of it. It's all an aesthetic experience.
Exactly. And I mean, everybody has different priorities when it comes to playing their games. For me, I like to look good.
Yeah.
So that's really important. Other people might never touch the customization screen, and that's fine. The next section is combat and gameplay, which is probably the most important for an Assassin's Creed game. And honestly, this one might be my favorite in a while. Ooh. The skill trees are by far my favorite of any of the games in the series in recent memory. Like, they were big enough to have variety, but not so big that they felt overwhelming, or so granular that each upgrade node felt like not very impactful at all.
Okay.
Basically, each character gets 6 different trees. We'll put a picture up here.
Yes.
That focus, and each tree focuses on a different section of the kit, like a specific weapon or a specific play style. Then there are nodes within those trees that either give new combat abilities or upgrade those combat abilities in different ways, either adding passives or changing them slightly. Or there's nodes that give a universal passive like crit chance or tool damage that can be applied to your kit overall.
Very cool.
Yeah. The progression of getting skill tree points also felt really good. Like, I never felt like I was getting too much or getting too little. The parkour also felt a lot better in this game too. Granted, it's not as refined as the pre-Assassin's Creed Origins games, but I also didn't feel like I was fighting against the character controller like I was in Valhalla.
Nice.
Yasuke doesn't do much parkour. Basically, all he can do is pull himself up to like a slightly higher ledge at most. But his combat is incredibly fun. If I didn't feel like stealthing, I'd play Yasuke, bash down the front door, and clear out a fort from top to bottom.
But you've always been more of a stealth player, right?
Sometimes, but sometimes I'm like, let me just make this easy for myself. Let me just walk through the front door and just bash some heads in.
That's effective, is what it is.
I would say if I had just played the past games, I would say I'm more of a stealth player. But something about Yasuke's combat in this game made me really enjoy that, like, that big strong guy walking in.
Walk in, beat people up.
Exactly. Nobody was in my way, and it was awesome, and it felt like an absolute power trip.
Good.
Nowadays gameplay is your much more traditional Assassin's Creed gameplay. You have your parkour, the X-ray vision, the smoke bombs, the bells, and a kit that mostly focuses on getting in and getting out without being seen. Granted, as the game went on and I was able to get more abilities, now I became a formidable fighter as well. And while I wasn't able to ever like walk her through the front door like I could with Yasuke, she definitely had a fun melee combat kit as well, with a lot of different options and different directions to go.
Cool.
I will say I do miss the ability to change the day to night at will, but I was able to do just fine without it.
I didn't know you could do that.
That was a ability that they introduced in Assassin's Creed Origins and was also in Odyssey and Valhalla, because it was like, anytime you would be going out, it might be day, it might be night, but you might want it to be night when you're trying to do a stealth mission. So you could like meditate and it would...
Oh, and time would pass.
Exactly.
Copy that.
They didn't have that in this one, but I didn't ever feel like I was hindered because of it, but it would be nice if they brought it back.
Cool.
The second to last section of this review is the open world, and probably one of the biggest issues that I had with the game, but I'm going to kind of like loop that in with the story as we go on.
Great.
So hands down, this is by far the most beautiful an Assassin's Creed game has looked.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Granted, I love the environments of the last trilogy of games too, because I love, history and archaeology.
I was going to say, this is a high compliment.
Yeah, so they are all awesome in their own ways, but there's no doubt that the environment of this game is gorgeous. The way the world changes with each season adds a new, fresh look to the world throughout the story. And riding through the land, up and down mountains, and through trees is honestly incredibly therapeutic.
Very cool.
The world is beautiful, so I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. Also, I never felt too far away from objectives when fast traveling, as I generally felt I was in, like, there were enough unlockable fast travel points that if I needed to go somewhere for a quest, I wasn't going for too long. I wasn't riding on a horse for too long to get there.
I'm so lazy. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, that was like something that in some of the previous games, I was like, some of them did it pretty well, some of them not so much. This one, I felt like it did it pretty well. However, I do have a few issues with the open world. Firstly, there is so much fog on the map and you can't clear it.
Just like on your actual, like you click into the map and there's just like a little decorative fog.
You know how in the open world games, there will be fog covering the areas that you haven't explored?
Yes.
There is so much fog and you can't clear it. And if you try to like go where the fog is, there's nothing there.
Gives the impression that there's more to do when there isn't.
Exactly. So like in previous Assassin's Creed games, it would like clear out in chunks. If there was nothing there, you would see that there is nothing there. In Shadows, it feels like outside of towns and the roads that attach them to each other, there isn't really much of anything.
Well, that's frustrating.
Yeah. So in Shadows, there's not really any point of going off the main road either, as there's not really an incentive to cut through like a forest to get from point A to B, because either the trees are too dense for you to ride through, or you can't traverse the incline because it's too steep, or if you try to climb up it, the character just jumps off. It's weird because the world is so big, but there's so much empty space, like in between a lot of the areas, that it ends up feeling very sparse and empty.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd probably be more fine with it if the map fog like cleared eventually. So I know that there's nothing there, because there were times that I would see this huge foggy area. I would run through it and there's just nothing but nature. I feel torn because on one hand, the world is gorgeous and it's beautiful to ride through and explore. But on the other hand, it feels incredibly empty despite its density.
Got it. Yeah. No, that's a disparity that would frustrate me as a player.
Yeah. So the last section is the story. I'm really conflicted about this. First off, just to get it out of the way, there is no modern day story. It's basically just a self-insert of you, the player, are the one using the animus to like do this whole experience.
I thought there was supposed to be a modern day part.
Usually there is something. Some of them have had it more than others. I was hoping they would with this like new Shadows. It was essentially supposed to be like the start of like a new era of Assassin's Creed. And it seems that they have completely opted to ignore this aspect and have it more as a framing device than an actual part of the story.
Okay.
The story itself feels like it might be the weakest part of the game because it was a great idea in concept, but not well executed.
Oh, rough.
Yeah. The main issue is that it's way too open, which is a funny thing to say.
Normally I would say, oh, there's no way, but
Yeah.
Interesting.
Essentially, instead of getting a traditional quest log, you get a big quest board, which I will be referring to as like a quest board or a murder board going forward.
That's as you've mentioned the murder board for sure.
Basically, if you remember the past Assassin's Creed games, you had like an Order of the Ancients board or a Templar board where you had the whole organization mapped out with who was connected to who, and you had to work your way through each target to get to the person in the middle. In Shadows, every quest you have is on this board. There are a bunch of circles. Some of them are regional NPCs that have given you quests. Some of them are groups and organizations that are causing trouble throughout the land, and you have to kill each member of those organizations. And then you have the main one in the middle that has all the targets in the organization that you have to kill for the main story. The problem is that outside of 4 of those main story quest targets, 2 of which you can kill at any order in the first act of the game, and the last 2 you kill in the third act of the game. The rest can be tackled in any order you want at any pace you want.
Wow. That's I feel like you're usually given a little bit more directive than just that.
Exactly. So the problem is, outside of 4 of the targets, 2 of which you can kill at any order in the first act of the game, and the last 2 you kill in the third act of the game, the rest can be tackled in any order you want and at any pace you want.
It feels like you're usually supposed to be given more directive than that.
Generally speaking, yeah. And I thought this was a great idea in theory. You know, it's a giant open world. You can do the quests in any order, and you know, if you want to tackle one region before the other, you can sort of have that freedom. The problem is that it seemed, in hindsight, having finished the game, that there was a very clear intended order. I said very clear. It was very clear to me, having finished the game, that there was an intended order to doing the quests, and I did not do them in that intended order.
Rough. So did that impact your sort of final outcome of the game?
It didn't affect the ending in any way, but I think it overall affected my experience. It felt like there were certain main story quests that had more weight and emphasis that needed to have been completed earlier, but instead I did them later.
Got it.
This also shows itself during quests where you can decide either to play as Naoe or Yasuke during the quest, and a decision is like, do you want to play as the one who is going in for peace negotiations, or do you want to stand outside and stand on guard?
Got it.
And make sure negotiations aren't interrupted. It's like, in the process of trying to make the game as open as possible and do the quests in any order you want and play as any protagonist you want, as much or as little as you want, you end up not committing enough to either in a way that feels impactful.
Aww.
Yeah. So by the end of the game, I had finished the primary murder board, and I kind of just had to go, wait, that was the ending?
That was it?
More than any other game in the series by far, it didn't really feel like an ending. It felt like I had to wait for the DLCs to release that would actually finish the story. And so other Assassin's Creed games in the past, like Odyssey and Valhalla, have had their main story and then had like a proper ending epilogue released with their final DLC. But the main ending of Shadows felt much less impactful than the main story endings of Valhalla and Odyssey. It was almost like getting to the end of a movie that was intended to be made in 2 parts, and you just got to the end of part 1.
Okay. That feels unfulfilling.
It does feel unfulfilling. So throughout the game, it feels like there are 3 main stories that the game is juggling at any time, but ultimately it feels like none of them got a proper amount of weight, and none of them were committed to enough to matter.
Like sort of spreading themselves too thin, so nothing individually got as much attention as it needed.
I'm going to try my best not to go into main big plot points. I will have to do some light spoilers from here on out, so if you want to know absolutely nothing, skip to timestamp that will show up somewhere.
We can do that.
Spoilers now. There are 3 main storylines. There's the Shinbaku, the organization that comprises the main story murder board targets. There's the Assassin's Brotherhood story, which is mostly connected to Naoe's personal quest. And there's the Templar Order story, which is mostly connected to Yasuke's personal quest.
Okay.
The problem arises where it doesn't feel like the main story of the game, which is focused on killing every member of the Shinbaku, is in any way related to the Assassins or the Templars. Like, they are slightly connected, as in the Shinbaku have taken a piece of Eden. They never call it a piece of Eden, but they have taken a piece of Eden. And if you have played any of the games, you know that the Templar Order is also looking for the piece of Eden. And the assassins are protecting the pieces of Eden so that way they're not abused and used. But none of them feel connected within the story.
Got it.
Other than the fact that here are these 2 people connected to these 2 organizations in some way, and they are connected to the organization that we are fighting in the middle.
Okay, so it's a little disparate there.
Exactly. So while you're going through the main story, you mostly get Naue and Assassin's Brotherhood quests more at the top of the game, and then you get more of the Yasuke and Templar quests in the latter half, but they are so few and far between that it hardly feels relevant.
Okay.
Honestly, what we got was really interesting. We were getting information on how these mostly European-centered organizations, at least within the time period of the game, spread itself around the world. But instead of making the Assassins and the Templars the main focus of the game, it seems like they had just enough to introduce the seeds of those stories so that way they could be continued in later DLCs. And the Shinbakufu questline ended up feeling just as inconsequential as all the other side quest regional murder boards by the time we got to the end of the game. Ultimately, as I was playing, I constantly felt like the game was scared to commit in fear of making the story experience less open. It didn't commit to any storyline in a way that made me feel like I had reached a satisfying ending to any story or had a sense of finality when I hit credits.
Oh.
If I had the option to restructure the game, I would have the main story give you like the 2 murder board quests to pick between, with an interlude quest or 2 that would focus on the Assassins and Templar stories. So at least it feels less front-loaded or back-loaded in some way.
And you get a little taste of at least everything.
Exactly. And it's paced out very intentionally, so it's always in your mind.
Got it.
Valhalla and Odyssey did this as well in their own different ways, and it made the whole murder board plot and the regional main story quests and the overarching story happen simultaneously in a way that felt more woven and connected.
Okay.
Though to the credit of those 2 games, the murder board plot and the overarching main story plot were intentionally more connected, so it was a little easier to do that, but I think having the same pacing would have been nice.
Got it.
So now I move into the main thesis of this video, and where your specific expertise and experience comes into play. Yes. I would say that open world games make up the bulk of the games that I have played, and probably the bulk of the games that you have played as well.
I would agree.
So I would say we have a good amount of experience coming into this to talk about open world game design. So if you're opting to make like a complete open world game rather than a limited open world game, the titles that I have found most enjoyment with are the ones that still have structure to their story.
I would agree.
Yeah, so even if you go off and explore areas of the map before you get to those regions in the story, you can still do the content and the side quests and the dungeons, but the main story of the game still takes you through the plot in a way that pushes the narrative forward.
Yes.
Rather than it feeling like little vignettes here and there.
I would have to agree. I like to have sort of check-in points throughout my game. Like, I enjoy side questing. I will dump like 100 hours into an open world game, and not, like most of that doesn't even have to be the main quest, but I need like a consistent reminder, sort of a something on the horizon to look at when it comes to the main story quest line.
Exactly. There are games that are incredibly open in their progression. Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and Elden Ring are 3 that have a very open design to them, but the world design has a clear sense of progression from each area to the map to the next. Plus, both games are a joy to explore, so that you want to check everywhere and check everything. And I think you'll have to say this more for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but at least for Elden Ring, the narrative itself is not the key focus of the progression either. Like, it's there, and you can get clues along the way that give you context to the world and what's going on, and there are side quests, but most of the progression comes from the way that you move around the world and the enjoyment of actually interacting with the open world and fighting the bosses.
Oh, yeah.
And like exploring the map.
And, you know, I mean, this isn't even to an extent, but Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom reward you for going out of your way to explore areas that are not necessarily driven by the main quest. The easiest example I can think of are Koroks. In what frustrated me to hear about the Assassin's Creed game was that you kept trying to explore these spaces that, you know, there was truly nothing in them. In Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, like, you'll move a little rock accidentally in a very far remote area where there might not even be stuff to hunt or to do, and you will be rewarded. And I enjoy that so much. I think there's more main story structure in Tears of the Kingdom. You are more consistently reminded of, you know, where you can find Zelda and like what you're trying to do and what your main goal is. But in Breath of the Wild too, even like you would have your reminders, you have your villages and your checkpoints, your towers that you get to, but there is such joy in the side quests that is a very prominent feature of the game.
Yeah.
So I would have to agree that I like some structure. I think I prefer Breath of the Wild for its more meandering plot line. With Tears of the Kingdom, though, I absolutely do see that it is zone by zone, more like it's different or more challenging. You progress with it as the game goes, especially, you know, like when you first drop on that map, don't go into the Underdark. Like, don't do that. Yeah. And so and you have the sky zones and the feats that you can do only after achieving certain powers. So it definitely progresses with you as you progress.
Mm-hmm. To add a note about open world games, like limited open world games, like Dragon Age the Veilguard and Final Fantasy 16. The main issue I also have with them is quest design and pacing, but in a different way.
Really?
Once you, generally speaking with limited open world games, rather than having one large map, you have a bunch of small zones within a much larger map that you can unlock. And so with these types of games, once you unlock a new map or finish a story chapter that takes place in that new map, you are suddenly flooded with a bunch of side quests for that new zone. So it almost feels like, you know, you finish the main story, you finish just the chapter of the main story. Okay, do all the new side quests.
Yes.
Okay, now go do the main story. Okay, whole bunch of side quests. The problem that I generally have with these is that then there is no enjoyment to explore the world once you've completed everything.
Okay, I see that.
Because at least with other open world games, I can still have other things I can do around the map. I can just run around. But in something like something that I had an issue with Final Fantasy 16 is that sometimes there would be so much new content with each new story chapter that it almost took me out of the main story. Like, where is the sense of urgency? The world is ending?
That is true as well, which I'm noticing because I'm playing Clair Obscure Expedition 33 right now, and I'm taking it very slow. I'm a slow gamer, but I'm like taking these rests and I'm exploring around these beautiful sceneries, and I'm kind of like, don't I have a year to live? Don't I need to, what's going on here? I'm taking my time, but don't I have a year?
Yeah, so I don't have like a magical fix for this, but just to kind of say, like, there isn't, like, whether you go for like the complete open world or the limited open world, I have played both versions where there is major issue with pacing, but so just to like put that note there.
Yeah, for sure. You can find that across a genre.
Yeah. With Shadows, the openness of its story definitely becomes its downfall because they didn't commit to the progression of the main murder board in a structured way. The Naoe Yasuke personal quests were not well paced throughout the rest of the game. And it just all felt messy and disjointed by the end. The murder board quests didn't feel like they mattered, and the character quests, which were probably the most interesting narrative aspect in my opinion, made me wish that there was more of it in the base game rather than probably needing to wait for a DLC to explain the rest of it. So, what's next for Assassin's Creed? The next title we have on the roster is Codename Hex, which was teased back in 2022 along with Shadows.
This feels like a break in tradition. Codename Hex.
Well,
2 words, not 1.
Well, no, Codename Hex is the code name for the project.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay. All right. I was
Yeah.
like, that's an interesting title. It's different than like Valhalla or Shadows.
No, Codename Hex is the project code for the next one. So based on the vibes of the teaser and what limited information we have from leaks, rumors, and press releases, the theory is that it will take place during the 16th century Holy Roman Empire witch trials.
I'm excited.
Yeah. We know it's being developed by Ubisoft Montreal, and we have no other information.
Oh my goodness. Okay. That's so much more interesting than like the Salem witch trials.
Yeah, no, literally.
Yeah. I'm really excited about that.
Definitely the more interesting of the witch trials. My hope is that they learn from all their other previous Assassin's Creed games that have been released thus far and not repeat the same mistakes as last time. They've already reduced the map size in Shadows from what it was in Odyssey and Valhalla, which is already one improvement for sure. And I can definitely say the map in Shadows was big enough. Don't need to make it bigger. If I had to make a list of hopeful things I would want in Hex to have or to change or improve upon, it would be build on the skill tree in Shadows. It felt like just the right size with the right amount of variety to make a build that works for the playstyle that you are going for.
Nice.
It was really nice. Keep Shadow's transmog system. Maybe add some more armor variety so that way it's not just like the same outfits but like different colors and patterns. But that's me. I like my fashion in my game.
No, but I mean that's something that I feel like detail wise they could add feasibly.
Yeah. Don't get too big with the map size, but also don't make the map just like objective areas that are connected by roads with a bunch of empty space between them.
Have it be functional space.
Exactly. Either build out a city like the older games and just focus on that, or if you want to stick to the open world, then do it like Origins or like a scaled down version of Valhalla and Odyssey. Just riding on horseback from town to town through a beautiful landscape is only enjoyable for so long.
Yeah, you need to be able to switch it up from that pretty much. Like I do enjoy very pretty scenery. It's something I very much look forward to. I love a beautiful landscape. It can't all be beautiful landscapes. You know, I've got to be able to hunt. I've got to be able to quest. I have to be able to find things and objects.
And then lastly, commit to your story. Make it cohesive, stick to it. Have a focus and keep on it. Even if you have to do like an A plot and a B plot, have them interact and weave together in a way that is paced throughout the whole of the runtime. Also, give it a satisfying ending. Give it weight. Even if you have DLC content that will lead to a true epilogue, still give the ending of the base game a sense of finality. We're paying $60-$70 for this thing.
I feel like that should just be a given. Yeah, you have an ending, a real actual ending.
And make it feel like an ending. Don't just roll credits, because that...
No, that's unsatisfying. No, because you worked for this. You spent however many hours working in that game. You want something that feels... It doesn't need to feel good. It can feel bad, and that can still be a satisfying ending.
Yeah, but it just matters that it feels like,
like I've done it.
I've
done the game.
I got to the end.
Yes.
So, in conclusion, I had a great time playing Shadows with 93 hours put into it, and I can say that overall, it was a good time. Unfortunately, it failed to deliver in the areas that I was probably looking forward to the most, though it definitely showed improvements in areas that I'm hoping later Assassin's Creed games will continue to build and improve upon.
Cool. Thank you so much for the breakdown here.
Of course. Assassin's Creed as a series is an interesting one because it's kind of been in a constant state of change and evolution from title to title. These are all great games and they're a lot of fun. But if they try to make a game so open in order to please as many types of players as possible, I think ultimately it ends up just being an average experience for everybody.
You disappoint. You have to take a stance. If you try and make your content as appeasing to the most amount of people as possible, you're just going to be another big box office like bleh show, okay?
And I think we have seen like just in the past year of some of the big breakout hits, these weren't games like Baldur's Gate, Clair Obscur, Balatro.
They have stances.
Like
they have a market.
Yeah, they're not catering to everybody, but when you make a good game, more people will naturally want to go to it and play it, even if it isn't their normal genre of choice.
It'll get around. It'll be popular. You create it and people will find you, even if your content is more niche. But, you know, I'm in total agreement with you. Stop trying to appease everybody.
Exactly. I know games are a business at the end of the day, but we've seen time and time again that if you make a great game, you're not aiming to please as many people as possible. Just the reviews and the reception of the game being the next great thing in gaming, you know, as Jeff Keighley likes to say, will bring audiences to the game who might have never played it otherwise.
Yeah.
Great art shifts consumer boundaries, and I have full faith that Ubisoft can deliver a great game like they have shown to do in the past years.
Wow, that was a wonderful wrap up. Thank you so much for sharing. I was curious to see what your opinions were because I know you were really excited for it. You know, it sounds like you did get some good gameplay out of it.
I did. I mean, 90 hours is nothing.
No,
to, like,
yeah.
That
you didn't put that in because you hated it.
Exactly. I truly did everything in the game. Except for that last achievement. I did everything in the game.
I kind of want to do a completionist run of like Baldur's Gate, but I think that's the only game that would get a real 100% out of me.
Generally speaking, don't go for platinums unless I feel like it's manageable and I'm not going to kill myself doing it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching. Did you play Assassin's Creed? What were your thoughts on the game? And are you an open world game gamer?
If not, join us. Please start by playing.
And if you are one, do you have any positive, negative critiques of the genre as it's been growing in the past decade or so? Share in the comments.
We would love. I'm out there stalking. I'll be.
We're
reading.
we are
We're
both out there
yeah.
stalking the comments.
Yeah.
We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.